They didn't even give me a chair in the meeting room. But 6 weeks later, everyone in that room was saying my name. This isn't a movie. This is a true story. I'm Sienna. When I was 25, I landed a job at one of the top architecture firms in New York. I wasn't trying to prove anything, I just wanted to do my job. But they didn't even let me speak. Not until I made sure the people who tried to silence me had nothing left to say. The receptionist didn't look up when Sienna stepped inside. The lobby smelled like eucalyptus and old money. Everything about Whitford and Blake Architects whispered power, but no one was speaking to her. She clutched the leather strap of her laptop bag a little tighter. Hi, I'm Sienna Brooks. Today's my first day. Still typing, the receptionist nodded vaguely. Intern. Junior architect. Right. Elevator to your left, 10th floor. Someone will get you. Sienna glanced at the wide marble steps ahead, the massive floor-to-ceiling windows spilling golden morning light across polished concrete. It was like walking into a magazine. She had dreamed of being here. It didn't feel like a dream now, more like a test she hadn't studied for. The elevator pinged open. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirrored walls. Neat bun, pale pink blouse, high-waisted navy pants. She looked like she belonged. She just didn't feel it. The doors slid open into a space of hushed voices and bright screens. Rows of desks stretched under hanging lights, all sharp lines and glass. No cubicles. No privacy. A woman in a tailored gray suit walked up, tablet in hand. Sienna Brooks? Yes. I'm Tasha, Senior Project Manager. Follow me. Sienna followed her through the maze of desks. Everyone looked busy. No one looked up. They stopped at a desk squeezed between a copier and the break room fridge. This'll be your station. Wi-Fi's in the welcome packet. Please don't move the chair, it's from facilities. Sienna looked at the desk. It didn't have her name. It didn't even have a nameplate slot. The chair creaked like it hadn't been sat in for a year. Thank you, she said anyway. Meeting at 10. Just observe for now. You're with Team Gray under Marcus Hall. Sienna nodded. She knew that name. He was the one who had designed the Henderson Hall Tower. She had studied it in school. She was excited until she actually met him. The glass-walled conference room looked more like a war room. Big touchscreens, endless blueprints, sleek water pitchers that no one touched. Marcus was already inside when Sienna entered. Tall, polished, mid-40s. He didn't look at her. He was too busy adjusting the alignment on the projector screen. Take a seat, Tasha whispered, pointing to the far corner. The table had 8 chairs. 7 were taken. 1 was slightly pulled out. It had no notepad. No name tag. Just space. Sienna sat. The meeting began. She listened intently. Her instinct was to contribute. There were moments she had studied case comparisons that directly related to the design dilemmas they were discussing. But no one made eye contact. And when she finally cleared her throat to speak, Marcus cut in. We'll circle back to that later. Moving on, Tasha, status update on materials. Sienna closed her mouth. That was the first time she realized. They didn't forget her. They excluded her. Lunch was taken at desks or in the break room in whisper pairs. She sat alone the first day, then the second. By the third, she brought her own book. When she tried to join a group walking toward the deli across the street, someone casually said, "We're meeting with a client, sorry." The client turned out to be their friend Jason from accounting. Sienna worked late. Every night. Not because they asked her to, because she wanted to. Every time someone left their desk, she studied their designs. She memorized the language of RFPs. She watched how Marcus made his slides, how Tasha handled objections. She submitted a series of suggestions on Project Halcyon, minor structural adjustments that improved the budget by 3.8%. No one responded. A week later, Marcus presented the exact adjustments to the client. He didn't use her name. But this time she didn't feel robbed. She felt invisible. One afternoon, Tasha walked by with a stack of folders. Sienna, can you take notes during the client call? Marcus wants a summary. Sure, she said. It wasn't in her job description. Neither was setting up the coffee machine, printing blueprints for the interns, or correcting typos on presentation slides after midnight. But she did them. She was trying to earn her seat. What she didn't realize was, they'd never given her one. It happened 3 weeks in. Marcus was out sick. Tasha was stuck in another meeting. The client, a woman named Deborah Langston from Huxley Holdings, showed up early. The room was tense. People shuffled, unsure who would start the briefing. Sienna was nearest the screen. She stood. "I can walk you through the status update, Ms. Langston." Someone snorted. But Deborah Langston was already sitting. "Go ahead." Sienna had memorized every bullet point, every challenge, every workaround. She spoke clearly, made eye contact, and finally she saw it. Someone was listening. When she finished, Deborah turned to the team and said, "She should be leading this account." Silence. Then nervous laughter. Then Deborah said again more firmly, "No, I'm serious." No one clapped. No one congratulated her. But that afternoon her name appeared on the internal calendar for the next 3 meetings. In the next team huddle, Marcus didn't mention her, but he didn't interrupt her either. And at the end of the day, someone had finally printed a name tag. It wasn't on the desk. It was taped to the back of her chair. Not much. But something. The first building Sienna ever loved was a library. She was 7 and it was raining, the kind of southern spring rain that made sidewalks steam and windows blur. Her mother, soaked from the knees down, dragged her through the glass doors of the Montclair Public Library, trying to outrun a storm and a screaming argument back home. They sat under a skylight that hummed with the soft patter of rain. Sienna looked up, eyes wide, watching the drops roll down the slanted glass above them. "This roof is magic," she whispered. Her mother smiled despite herself. "That's architecture." Sienna didn't forget. Not the sound, not the light. Not the quiet. She went back every week. She brought graph paper from the school supply closet and sketched the beams. When her friends played house, she played architect. At Columbia, she was one of 5 women in the advanced structural seminar. By graduation, only 3 remained. She'd learned to speak with confidence, even when people didn't listen. Learned to sit at the edge of tables when no one pulled out a chair. Learned that "you're here because you're exceptional" was often followed by, "but don't expect too much." And yet she thrived. Her senior project, a community center design built around sunlight cycles and adaptive shade, won the Regional Future Cities Award. She interned at 2 firms. She knew she didn't know everything, but she also knew how to learn fast. Really fast. Back to present. The slow return to silence. After the Langston meeting, Sienna expected things to shift. And they did. But not forward. Her name appeared on more invites. But she wasn't introduced in meetings. Her work was referenced more. But always passively. Someone ran those numbers. "We had a rough model drafted," initial feedback suggests. She became the ghost of good work. Tasha began giving her praise, but only in private. Marcus didn't interrupt anymore. But he also never followed up when she spoke. He let her talk, then redirected. It was like being applauded in a soundproof room. Every Friday, the office had drinks on the balcony. Sienna showed up, laughed in the right places, made small talk. One week, she brought homemade cookies. No one touched them. The next, she stayed quiet. No one noticed. She overheard things sometimes, offhand comments. "New girl's intense. Trying a little hard. Someone's gunning for fast track." But the worst was from Marcus. He didn't say it to her. Of course not. He said it to an associate in the hallway, assuming she wasn't close enough to hear. "She's smart, but she's just not a culture fit." Those words stuck. Not wrong. Not rude. Just not a fit, like a door that wouldn't close. Like a puzzle piece left out of the box. 2 floors down, in a small corner office near the archives, worked Miriam Coates. The first time Sienna saw her, she was reviewing blueprint scans with a red pencil and a cup of herbal tea. Her office was filled with natural light and strange old models. Buildings that had never been built, their paper edges curling like old photographs. Sienna knocked gently. "I was looking for archival floor plans. They said you might help." Miriam looked up slowly. She wore reading glasses and no makeup. Her gray hair was pulled back loosely. "I can help," she said. "But let's start with why you're really here." Sienna blinked. "Excuse me. You're not looking for blueprints. You're looking for something that makes you feel like you still belong here." Silence. Then, "Am I wrong?" Sienna ended up staying an hour. Miriam didn't ask many questions, but she watched carefully. She listened. "You're not the first girl they've tried to soften around the edges," Miriam said eventually. "But buildings don't stand without edges. And neither do women like you." Like me? Sienna asked. Talented. Fussed. Uncomfortable to weak men. That night, Sienna didn't stay late at her desk. She stayed late in the archives. Miriam gave her access to old pitch decks, design logic from past decades, even email chains that had shaped the company's strategy. If you're going to play this game, Miriam said, at least learn where the board is. Over the next 2 weeks, Sienna rebuilt herself, not loudly, not visibly. She attended every meeting with 2 notepads. One for the project, one for the people. She tracked patterns, who interrupted whom, who repeated ideas, who redirected praise. She created a spreadsheet titled Blind Spots. Another one, Leverage Points. And her favorite, When They Don't Think I'm Watching. The final push came when a new male intern, Elliot, was asked to present slides that Sienna had built. Not requested, not suggested, just announced. Elliot will walk us through this part, Marcus said casually. Elliot looked panicked. I didn't, you'll be fine, Marcus replied. Just talk through the bullet points. Sienna stayed still. Later, Elliot apologized. I didn't know. I swear. I believe you, Sienna said. You're not the problem. You're just being handed the mic. Elliot blinked. So what are you going to do? She smiled, thin and sharp. I'm going to build my own speaker system. That night she stayed late. Not at her desk, again in the archives. She asked Miriam for access to legacy client files, for mentorship protocols the company no longer used, for structural review notes that had once been required for every promotion track. Miriam watched her carefully. You're not planning sabotage, are you? Sienna smiled. No. Just renovation. Of what? High reputation. If they won't give you the stage, Miriam had said, build your own spotlight. Sienna had taken that advice to heart. For 3 weeks she did exactly what they expected her to do and 3 times more that no one asked for. Each evening, after most of the team had logged off and gone home, Sienna stayed. Not to be seen. To see. She started mapping everything. Every meeting's unspoken hierarchy. Who sat where, who deferred to whom. Which clients responded best to visuals, which preferred data. She color-coded the company like a complex elevation plan. Marcus red, volatile, insecure. Tasha gray, neutral, loyal to power. Elliot blue, eager, malleable. Deborah Langston gold, respected and sharp. Sienna built a private Notion dashboard titled, The Foundation They Forgot. Inside, annotated timelines, voice memos, client profiles, behavioral flowcharts. It was her personal architecture, not of buildings but of power. When she noticed Marcus leaving files scattered in the shared drive without proper formatting, she began quietly organizing them. When she found old pitch decks riddled with last-minute edits and typos, she fixed them and left them untouched but backed up with her own version, time-stamped. She started copying herself on internal communications. Not overtly, just BCCing her own private Gmail with key documents just in case. Not for revenge. For proof. One Monday morning, the senior partners announced a new client RFP, massive logistics company, tight deadline, huge visibility. The project had been passed over twice by 2 different internal teams. Too demanding, one had said. High risk, low reward, another shrugged. Marcus offered a smug smile during the morning huddle. We'll hand it to Elliot and the junior team. Treat it as a practice round. That was code for, let them fail quietly. Nothing important will come of it. Elliot blinked. Me. Marcus nodded. You can lean on Sienna for drafting. But let's not waste too much time on it. Sienna didn't wait for Elliot to lead. She built a full draft timeline by lunch. Compiled comparative case studies by evening. And by the end of the week, she'd constructed a 24-slide master deck with interactive overlays and cost efficiency simulations. When Elliot saw it, his jaw dropped. You did all this? She looked up calmly. We did. You just haven't caught up yet. To his credit, Elliot listened. He practiced the pitch with her 5 nights in a row. She rewrote his opener, coached his tone, and refined every transition until the script felt like his. It wasn't ego. It was leverage. That Friday, while printing updated diagrams for the proposal, Sienna accidentally overheard Marcus speaking in the hallway. He didn't see her, she was behind the column. She's good with numbers, I'll give her that, Marcus was saying to Tasha. But she's not a lead. No presents. She's fine behind the scenes. Tasha replied. She carried the Langston call. Marcus laughed. A fluke. She's not someone clients remember. She's forgettable. The words didn't burn. They crystallized. They clarified what she was really fighting. Not being hated. Not being undermined. But being invisible by design. By now she had a quiet ally in Miriam. Another in Elliot. And unexpectedly, a third. Julia, the office manager who had been ignored for 12 years and knew every password, every partner's schedule, every skeleton in every filing cabinet. Julia started sending her Slack messages at odd times. FYI, Marcus just reordered slides. Check slide 12. Tasha told Langston your diagram was team-generated. Oh. You didn't hear this from me, but they're about to announce internal restructuring. Big one. Sienna responded with short emojis. But behind the scenes she kept building. One night, while waiting for renderings to export, Sienna opened her notebook to a fresh page. At the top she wrote, the names that took up space. She listed every person who had been offered a voice before her. Then every project where she had contributed but hadn't been mentioned. She didn't write them out of bitterness. She wrote them out of measurement. When she finished, she flipped the page. She wrote, what I will own. And under that, final pitch for Cartwright & Sons. Structural proposal for Langston Towers. New onboarding framework. My story. She drew a bold box around the last item. A week later, she entered the morning meeting room early. For the first time, she chose the seat next to Marcus. When he walked in, he paused, slightly amused. Trying out the captain's seat? Sienna smiled. Just trying a new perspective. He laughed as if she'd made a joke. He didn't. That day, she asked 3 direct questions during the meeting, all to clients, all relevant, all accurate. She saw Marcus twitch, but he didn't stop her. She was no longer the girl taking notes in the corner. She was the woman asking the questions in the center. And no one had invited her there. She just sat down. The week leading up to the Cartwright & Sons pitch was a blur of deadlines, late nights, and fake smiles. Sienna had built the proposal from scratch, research, design strategy, cost breakdowns, 3D renders. Elliot was listed as presenter again. But this time something was off. She noticed it on Wednesday when she reviewed the presentation draft. Slide 3, 4, 6, and 9, her diagrams were replaced with simplified versions. Slide 12, her bullet points had been edited. Slide 15, the conclusion slide now read. Lead architect. Marcus Hall support. Elliot Green, no mention of her. That evening she didn't cry. She didn't email. She didn't even tell Miriam. She packed her bag, walked to the park, and sat on the same bench she had the night after the Langston pitch. The city hummed. Buses hissed. Dogs barked. She stared at her hands and whispered, "You're not angry. You're not surprised." What she was, however, was finished. The next day she arrived at the office at 6:30 a.m. By 9 she had completed a revised version of the original presentation with embedded author metadata tied to her login credentials. A private email to the Cartwright client contact linking a Dropbox folder of original drafts with timestamps. A scheduled email to HR with a professional but firm complaint, structured, not emotional, regarding authorship misattribution and repeated exclusion from project credits. But she didn't send it. Not yet. Instead, she walked into Marcus's office, closed the door, and laid her hand on the proposal folder. "I know what you did," she said. Marcus didn't flinch. "Excuse me. I saw the edits. The credits. My name erased. Again." Marcus leaned back, amused. "You're talented, Sienna. But let me give you some advice. People remember poise, not noise." She didn't smile. "You'll remember this." Then she walked out. Friday. 11 Uhr morgens. Cartwright pitch meeting. A large glass conference room. 24 attendees. High stakes. Elliot stood at the front. Nervous. Sweating. Sienna stood beside the screen. Silent. Poised. The CEO of Cartwright glanced at the slides as Elliot began. But midway through the third slide, the CEO raised a hand. "Hold on," he said. "These projections look familiar. I've seen a version of this, more complex. More complete." Elliot faltered. This is the final version, sir." Sienna took one step forward. They're referring to the early stage file I shared on Monday, she said. That model was mine. Everyone turned. Marcus's lips parted. She's not cleared to communicate with clients, the Cartwright CEO interrupted. But she did. And we appreciated the transparency. He turned to Sienna. You're the one behind this? I am. Silence. Then, we want you on the account. Directly. Lead roll. Monday morning. Marcus was called into a closed-door meeting. By Thursday, a formal investigation had begun. HR interviewed Sienna 3 times. Each time she provided calm, evidence-based answers. She never raised her voice. He didn't have to. By the end of the month, Marcus was reassigned in name. But insiders knew he had been removed from client-facing duties entirely. A memo followed. All creative contributions must be attributed at all stages. Transparency and inclusion are not optional. Sienna's name was on the email signature. The following week, during a firm-wide retreat, Sienna stood in front of 50 employees. New hires, senior architects, interns. She didn't boast. She didn't retell the Cartwright story. Instead, she walked to the edge of the stage and said, "No one gave me a seat at the table. I stood until one opened. But now, I'm here to make sure the next person doesn't have to wait as long." She looked at the front row. There, where she once sat behind a water cooler and a copier, was a new nameplate. Not hers. Someone else's. And it wasn't empty.